G'day guys and welcome to Searching for UFOs Australia. Today we're going to have a look at a story that took place back in 1988 here in South Australia, really close to where I live, probably about 40 minutes away, near a town called Jamestown, which is about 2.5 hours north of Adelaide, and Adelaide's the capital of South Australia. Now in the mid-80s and 90s I can remember stories and reports of a lot of UFO sightings in my area, and this is just one of them. Now Jamestown is a town where probably about a few years ago I used to actually travel a fair bit for work, and I used to actually go past the house where this sighting took place, which is quite interesting. So we're going to look at a story that was written about it in the local newspaper, and have a look at it as well. Now, those of you who are new to this channel, what you're basically going to find in this channel is I'm going to be talking about UFO stories that take place in my area, around my town, surrounding areas, and I'm going to take you out into the field and do some night watching and stuff like that as well. So hopefully you guys will be interested and subscribe to the channel as well. So we'll have a quick read of this. Now this is probably one of many stories that took place in the 80s. So there's a couple more stories happening in the same area as well, and I'll do those ones in another video another time, but this one is a quite interesting one. UFO scares farmer and his dog. So this took place the 25th of July 1988, Jamestown, South Australia. According to eyewitness reported released by Jamestown Police, a flying saucer landed in the East Paddock last month. The spectacular, in-depth report was taken from a local farmer who came forward following UFO sightings reported in the Peterborough Port Pirie area to police last Tuesday week. So I think this story came out of a few other stories I think were reported as well of UFO sightings. The farmer said he had a bizarre close encounter with a flying saucer which left landing marks in one of his paddocks and sent his dogs into a frenzy. He said about 3/4 of an hour after sundown on July 25th, he was working a tractor in one of his paddocks when a bright red light appeared in the sky nearby, about 20 metres above the ground. The colour was unlike any shade of red he had ever seen. He said the light shone down onto the ground in a cone shape for about 3 seconds and then shut off. 15 minutes later, he saw the same light shining downwards and illuminating the top of some trees about a kilometre away from where he first saw it. After his second sighting, he realised what he was seeing was out of the ordinary. He rushed home to telephone his family, who were out visiting relatives. When he entered his house, his dogs outside began barking excitedly. One dog shot out into the paddock and stayed there, another ran under the veranda, and a third went berserk, jumping into the air doing 180-degree turns. He seemed to be looking at the top of the farmhouse, the east of the house, and me, one at the same time, the farmer said. He added, I have never seen my dogs so hysterical. All three of them seemed terrified of something around the eastern side of the house. The farmer told police that when he walked around the house to find out what had frightened his dogs, he saw what he first thought was a car parked alongside some trees about 40 metres away from his house. When I approached it, it nearly put the wind up me, he told police. He said he saw what he can only describe as a flying saucer. According to the farmer, the object was about 4 metres wide and 2 to 3 metres high with a squarish type of base. It appeared to be made of a material that looked like highly polished aluminium. It was a saucer shape with a dome type of top. The farmer claimed he had approached to within 20 metres of the craft and he could see it quite clearly. He described the to the police portholes about 40 to 60 centimeters in diameter on the outside, then an inner wall so that the inner porthole was only the size of a car headlight. The police said the farmer then became concerned for his safety and returned home. He further claimed that while he was inside, he heard a sound he described as very short, shuffling footsteps, like someone or something was walking on plastic. This noise, said the farmer, came from the southeast corner of the house and moved in a westerly direction to the south side. By this time, I was pretty frightened and was sort of in a state of limbo. It is a very eerie experience to go through by yourself, the farmer told police. The next morning, upon investigation, he found marks on his paddock where the source had been. Senior Constable Bates of Jamestown said he attended the reported landing site and viewed certain marks on the ground which appeared to be consistent with what the farmer had reported. Jamestown police said they had reported the incident to the RAF at Edinburgh and inquiries that had failed to explain the landing or lights. Mr. Ray Brooke of the UFO Research, South Australia, in Adelaide, confirmed that the organisation had received a lot of UFO reports west of the Flinders Ranges in the Pirrie area for the past 15 years. A similar sighting to this one was reported in Clare some 5 to 6 years ago, he said. He said the reported reaction by the dogs was common. They seemed to pick up this sort of thing up more than any other animal. Cats do sometimes, and horses, he said. He added, we get reports all the way up there, that area. Perhaps there's something there attracts these things all around the Flinders Ranges, especially the Pirrie side, more in that direction, certainly. So that's the end of that report. So 1988, I got to look back at some dates. So it's the Southern Flinders Ranges. So we got the Flinders Ranges. The Northern Flinders Ranges is north of Port Augusta. Southern Flinders Ranges runs from near Pirrie down to Clare. A lot of UFO reports in the 80s and 90s. Now in the Flinders Hills, off the road that heads to Gladstone, there used to be an old army. I wouldn't call it a base, but it was a place where they stored a lot of their ammunition or made explosives. Later on, a private company took over that, who made explosives. So I'm still trying to think in the 80s if that was still run by the military. Also, probably about 4.5 hours north of this is Woomera, and like I mentioned in the last video before, Woomera in the 80s was a joint American and Australian base. You had the listening posts out there, and you had Woomera Air Base as well, where I think a lot of experimental aircraft were tested out there. So that could be a coincidence, but this house where this UFO sighting took place, you can actually pass it on the main road into Jamestown. I'm pretty sure, because I can remember going out that way, and my dad and another guy would always point out that that's where the UFO sighting took place. So, but there you go, guys. So that's UFO scares farmer and his dog. Like I said, there's a few other ones that I'll get into as well, which I think happened a few months later. Actually, this might actually read on to more. Hang on. So I've just found a little bit more onto this story here, which I'll continue to read from page 1. I think this one goes to this. He said cameras he used in his work had looked like big anti-aircraft guns. He didn't go to sleep for about an hour after he saw it. He said of his experience, no one over here is laughing about it because they have seen it before. I don't think it is anything to be afraid of. If they were going to contact us, it would have been long ago. People will disbelieve it until they are actually seeing one themselves. Perhaps they have been making fools of us for years. The director of the UFO body, Mr. Colin Norris, said from Adelaide that Mr. I won't say his last name, sighting was classical of what is happening around the world. The whole world is being inundated by flying saucers activities, he said. And it just goes on. The Gladstone farmer told the Flinders News. Well, this might actually be to another story. But yeah. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. Please drop a comment down below, hit that like button, share this video. Now, I'm actually looking at, in the next few weeks, heading out to the same area, not near Jamestown. It's probably another 20 minutes away, near Golden Air. It's called Golden Air. Looking at the light pollution map, that's probably one of the darkest spots around my area to do some astrophotography and some sky watching. So I'm hoping to do that in the next few weeks, take you guys out there and do a bit of a night watch. It's isolated, it's a farming area. I reckon it'll be a great area to watch the skies as well. And like I said, these areas in the 80s and 90s were a hot spot of UFO sightings, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, thank you for tuning in. Hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.